You're listening to the JJS Podcast. Up to this point, the most successful companies around the world have had entire departments made up of full-time employees dedicated to providing marketing communication support, leaving every other company without those resources at a distinct disadvantage. Well, the world has changed, and we have to change with it. That's why I'm going to take my 15 years of experience of managing marketing communication strategies for some of the biggest brands in the world and share that knowledge with you so that it can improve your business and your life. So if you're a business professional or an entrepreneur who wants to learn how to deploy the right strategies given your position and the position of the audience you're trying to reach, you're in the right place. Hey guys, welcome to the JJS Podcast. So today we're going to be talking about two things, and they're going to be tied together. And the second thing may sound a little bit like a pitch, which I guess it is in a way, but that wasn't the intent behind it, and you'll see what I mean. So the first thing I want to talk about is, as you guys know, my favorite subject, the growing call for workers to return on site. I'm noticing a lot of companies are starting to set a firm date, quote unquote, a firm date, which I've heard a million times in the last 2 years, for when they're going to expect their employees to come back on site. And I'm noticing a lot of job postings as well, which I track to get insight on what's happening from a labor perspective. A lot of them are requiring they're requiring on site as a condition of employment. So just want to touch on that. As you guys know, if you've been listening for a while, you know how I feel about that I think that's kind of misguided and missing the moment, so to speak. This insistence for people to return on site. And it's kind of fascinating to me, to be frank, how many people in very powerful positions at very high levels are refusing to accept the fact that things are never going back to the way they were. Things have changed permanently. And, they're just not getting it. And, had this been a few months, had this been 6 months of this pandemic, I don't think things would have changed permanently. I don't think there would have been enough time. But the problem is, it's been 2 years now, over 2 years, and a lot of people have permanently changed how they operated forever. They're not going to go back to the way they were doing things before, no matter how much employers or companies call for that to try to return to that. It's not going to happen. And I'm starting to sense, as I keep track of this stuff and talk to folks and whatnot, I'm starting to get the sense that a large part of the motivation is, in fact, to address some of the stuff that I've talked about in previous episodes. This new thing where individuals have found multiple ways to earn money. They've diversified their income streams. I'm getting the sense that a large part of the motivation for employers to insist or demand that people come back to work on site is to mitigate that. They don't want a workforce to do that. They want to reestablish this dynamic where the people working for them really need their jobs as their sole primary source of income. Maybe it's not completely draconian. Maybe it's that they just feel the organization doesn't run as well, it doesn't run smooth if you're staffed by a bunch of people who could leave at any minute because they have options or because they're not dependent on that organization. Maybe they feel we need a work, and however you feel about that, whatever. But essentially, they don't want an employee population that is as free, I don't know how else to put it, but is as free as the worker population is today. And so, they know that it's more difficult to have multiple jobs or do contract work or make money on YouTube or whatnot if you're working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 on-prem. And they're aware of that, and so they that's kind of where, and I know that a lot of HR folks or executives would deny that up and down, right? And when they're getting quoted in stories and stuff, they say, "Oh no, it's because we want to preserve the culture and we want to make sure people feel integrated with the company and all this. And, the reason I'm skeptical about that is because I've known HR and executive type folks for many years now, and the vast majority of them are not exactly the most sentimental people in the world. Okay. Some of them are. Some of them are very nice, heartfelt, caring people that actually do care about the people who work at the organizations and whatnot. But a lot of them are not that sentimental. So I find it hard to believe they're really interested in making sure people are integrated with the company. I think it more has to do with, we just don't like this situation where people working remotely don't need their job, and so they if the second things get hot, or the second that somebody tells them to do something they don't want to do, they just up and leave. We can't exist that way. We need more stability, and so we want everyone to come back and work on site so that we have less of this going on. And the thing is, what I feel is more likely to happen is, if you do that, what's going to happen is you're going to have people who work there, right? You're always going to have people work. A lot of employers have that mindset in response to the stuff I say. Is like, James, like, who cares about any of that? People will, if I'm going to do what I want and have it the way I want, and people are going to work for me no matter what. I don't have to worry about all that stuff. They don't like it. They don't like it. That's fine, but you have to understand that what defines success, what makes a company success, is the talent. It's not just having people work for you, but who's working for you. Are they really talented, and are they really intelligent people? And the thing is, because of this new environment that we're in, the intelligent, talented people have a lot more options and don't have to work at any one particular place, and can make money through a variety of means. So what's going to happen is, the people who comply and want to come work on site, not, and I'm not trying to be demeaning or anything, but are probably going to be the B team, right? Or the C team. It's not going to be the A team, because the A team is working remotely or working at companies where they don't care if they work on site or whatnot. So that's what's going to happen, and that does matter. Like, you will begin to feel the effects of that. So, and the thing is too, trying to attract people back on site with cookies and cupcakes and pizza parties and things like that, that's not going to do it. If you want to incentivize the talented, intelligent folks to come back, work for you full time, on site, 9 to 5, back to the way it was, you're going to have to pay them more. You're going to have to pay them a lot more than what the labor market average says you should be paying them. Because that's another thing. A lot of these employers are still sticking to, well, this is the labor market average for this position. That doesn't matter anymore, man. Like, that's all gone. If you want to incentivize people to come work for you on-prem, full-time, and forsake all these other opportunities to make money, and to incur the cost now of traveling to your office. I mean, look at gas prices. To incur the cost of the laundromat again, and not spending time with their kids and all that, you're going to have to sweeten the deal a lot more than what the Department of Labor or anyone else is saying that resource is worth. You have to dispel that notion, because, again, a person, whoever it is you're talking about, let's say the labor market average rate for them is $75,000 or $80,000 a year. That individual then can work remotely for 2 places paying them that. They could, if they're good and if they're smart. I don't recommend people do that, but they could. And so now you're talking about the possibility of somebody making 140 to 160 a year, not 75 or 80. So why would they take 80,000 a year and work full time on prem and forsake the opportunity to make twice the money. Why would they do that if they could, right? So, get rid of that notion where it's like, well, this is the average labor. If you want them on-prem, you're going to have to sweeten the deal by a lot. Or accept that the world has changed permanently. Everyone has become hip to that fact, and they've adjusted their life accordingly, and they're working remotely or whatnot. I think a lot of companies have figured this out in a way where they are now going to a hybrid framework, where it's not hybrid in the sense of, all right, you work at the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you can work from home Tuesday and Thursday. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about hybrid in the sense of a lot of companies have figured out just to let people work wherever they want, whenever they want. So if you want to work remotely 90% of the time and come in occasionally to work on stuff with the team, because again, and I was talking about this with a friend of mine recently, there is value to occasionally going in, meeting with folks and kind of whiteboarding stuff and doing it, collaboratively in the same room. There is value to that, especially if you're in a creative type role. You definitely want to be able to still do that. And I think a lot of folks do want to still be able to do that. They're not completely against that. But what I think we are moving away from, and what I've been saying since 2020, this isn't recent. I mean, I hate to toot my own horn here, but I mean, I've been banging this drum long before most people were. I was saying this in the summer of 2020. What's going to happen is more and more people are going to have more and more options, because millions of them went remote at the same time, and they're going to go more independent. They're going to become contractors. They're going to do different things to make money and not be so tethered or dependent on a single organization, the rise and fall of a single organization anymore. They've realized that's not the way to do things. That was a mistake that a lot of people made, and paid a heavy toll for it when the pandemic happened. I being one of them. I was a creature of that world. Okay, I was a corporate guy, dedicated, and just kind of put everything I had into wherever I was working in a single company. And the pandemic happened, and all of that went away really quickly. So a lot of people like me learned our lesson. We're not going to tie our fates to a single company anymore, financially wise. So, things are different now, and they're going to remain different. And, to a lot of these companies that have set these firm dates, these dates are really firm. Well, once again, which I've said before as well in previous episodes, could potentially happen or has been happening. So we have cases rising yet again with the BA2 subvariant. They're rising in parts of Europe, in parts of Asia, and historically that has been a precursor to cases rising in the United States. Let's hope not. I sincerely hope that's not the case. I hope this kind of just dies down really quickly. But, that has been the historical trend. And so all of these firm dates are probably yet again going to have to be pushed back for a lot of these companies. It's already being pushed back in companies that are based in Europe. So, and not just in terms of COVID, look around you. There are world-changing events happening pretty regularly now. Things are not as stable as we've all grown accustomed to over the past few years. The last couple years, things have become increasingly unstable in many ways. So something else, heaven forbid, something else catastrophic and destabilizing and disruptive could happen again, in a year or so. And then we'd all have to go back and to remote and whatnot. So, again, we just need to kind of accept that things are different now. Things have changed forever. They just have. And I'm fascinated by how many people who are a lot smarter than I am, who make a lot more money than I do, have not accepted that fact that even when this is over, even when this pandemic is completely over, things are not going back to the way they were. They're just not. You're going to have to deal with a workforce that has learned they have a lot more options digitally to make money digitally. So, and that takes me to my second point. If you are one of these companies that's in a position where you're finding it difficult to hire people or whatnot, or hire good people, and even in the past, when it came to marketing communications departments, and I'm sure it applies to a lot of other departments, you had a lot of roles that were highly specialized. So, marketing communications department had somebody who dealt with graphic design, and then somebody else who did content, and then somebody else who did PR, and then somebody else who did digital marketing or social marketing, and somebody else who X, Y, and Z. And so if your operation is still kind of set up in a way where you need all those functions performed, it's going to be even more difficult for you now, and especially if you're requiring folks to come back and work on site. It's going to be really difficult for you to find highly impactful, highly specialized individuals to fill all those roles and fill those functions. What you're probably going to start thinking about doing is outsourcing your marketing communications function and some of your other functions to agencies that are kind of a one-stop shop and can kind of do it all. Because a big problem that it's still to this day you have, even when it comes to other agencies, is the agency will specialize in kind of one or two things. Like they're a digital marketing agency, right? They do digital marketing really well, and they can handle your digital marketing and all that, but they can't do your PR, or they can't write a speech for a presentation that you have coming up, or they can't do a sales presentation or a sales deck, or they can't handle your internal communications with your employees or any of that stuff. You keep having to go to different agencies, and it becomes really expensive. So either you're hiring folks that are highly specialized in one area and paying 5 or 6 of them, or you're paying several agencies to perform several marketing communication functions for you, and it gets really expensive. So what you might want to start thinking about doing is finding an agency like JJS Consulting Group that can kind of handle all that stuff proficiently in-house, in the agency, I mean. So you don't have to go to a PR agency and then a digital marketing agency and then hire a contractor to do your speeches, then hire, you can just find someone who, and if it's not us, it's fine. I say this really isn't a pitch because, a lot of the folks who are wanting people to come return on site and whatnot are probably not fans of me or the JJS podcast. So that's why it's maybe not so pitch-like, but it applies for any company, whether you are kind of understanding what's going on and you're kind of hip to the times, and you still need to kind of have all these marketing communication functions done, but you don't want to pay like 5 or 6 people or 3 or 4 agencies. You just pay one to fulfill all those functions for you. Give us a call for sure. But that's all I wanted to say. So hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any feedback, be sure to leave a comment or shoot me an email. And as always, good luck out there. Hey, I want to thank you guys for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, be sure to review and rate it so that other people who are interested in these topics can easily find it. Be sure to share it and tune in every Wednesday for a new episode of the JJS Podcast. Thanks again for listening, and remember, communication without strategy is just noise. Until next time.